Hey guys, I just wanted to go over some practice problems with you guys for the week. So I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you've been practicing adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. This week we're adding fractions and decimals. Well, we had that a little bit last week as well. So let's look over these few review questions. So you should be able to answer all 4 of these questions. Number 1, what should be added? What number should be added to negative 23 to make a sum of 0? So those would be opposite numbers, right? So negative 23 plus 23. So those are numbers that are additive inverses of one another. Other examples would be anything, 7 and negative 7, negative 2 and positive 2, negative 100, positive 100, so on and so forth. Whoops, that's looks like a great big negative number. But anyway, those are all examples of opposite numbers. All right, rewrite 3 minus 7 using the additive inverse. So if we want to add, we would write 3 plus the opposite of 7. So it would be 3 plus the opposite of 7 would be negative 7. So 3 minus 7 and 3 plus a negative 7 has the exact same value. All right, and both of them is equal to negative 4. So they have different signs, so you subtract them and you take the sign with the bigger digit. Number 3, what is the distance between negative 40 and 10? So if you have a number line with 0 here, and 10 being here, and negative 40 is way down here. How many numbers apart are these? How many spaces would I have to go to get from negative 40 to 10? So hopefully you know the answer is 50. They're 50 spaces apart. So if you're going to write an an absolute value expression to show the answer, since we're talking about distance is always a positive number. But really, you're finding the difference between these two numbers. Well, in math, a difference is always shown with subtraction. So there would be our math problem, but since it's distance, we would find the absolute value of the answer. So negative 40 combined with negative 10, or negative 40 minus 10 is negative 50. And the absolute value of negative 50 is 50. So these two numbers are 50 spaces apart. All right, number 4, hopefully you guys were able to print this presentation and try these problems on your own. And right now you're just checking your answers. So if you're just watching me on this video, just solve these problems on my own and you're not doing anything, then you aren't doing enough. You need to work along with me or do them on your own and then check your answers. All right, so on number 4, when we have minus and negative symbol back to back with our pencils, we're going to do bam, bam. So minus a negative is really the same as adding a positive. So let's rewrite this. All right, so we took out our minus a negative. So now we have a negative number combined with a positive number. So if we have different signs, we subtract. And we always take the number with the smallest absolute value away from the number with the biggest absolute value. So I'm going to rewrite this so that my 12 comes first. All right, so I'm not allowed to add this without having common denominators. So my least common multiple of 2 and 4 is 4. All right, so what do I multiply 2 by to get to 4? 2 times 2 is 4, so I multiply 1 times 2. All right, now I would normally subtract my whole numbers and then my numerators, but I can't take 2 from 1. There's no such thing as having a positive whole number attached to a negative fraction. That doesn't exist. So since this number is not big enough to take 2 away from it, I'm going to have to turn these both into improper fractions. So you remember how to do improper fractions. You go around the world. 4 times 12 plus 1. So 4 times 12 is 48 plus 1 is 49. So 49 fourths minus, we're going to go around the world, 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. All right, we're going to subtract those numerators. The denominator doesn't change. So 49 minus 14 is 35. And then we're going to turn it back into a mixed number. We're going to think, what is 35 divided by 4? Well, 4 will go into 35 8 times with how many left over? 3. So our answer is 8 3/4. 8 3/4. Or you could plug this original problem into your calculator exactly the way it's written, with the parentheses and everything, the minus signs and the negative signs. This calculator is awesome. You should all have one. The Texas Instrument TI-30XS Multiview. And it's got a fraction button. And above it, you can even make a mixed number. So you would use your second button. Let me clear this out. We're going to use our second button. And we're going to use this button right here because above it, I see a mixed number. And so I can plug in my -3. So make sure this is a negative sign. This is a minus sign, two different things. So -3. And then I would arrow into my fraction and I would plug in my numbers. 1/2. I would move with my arrow buttons over here. Make sure you add your parentheses when necessary. Okay, so you guys need to practice using your calculator and plugging numbers into it and seeing if you get the same answers that we get as we do them together. So knowing how to use a calculator properly is very, very important. It's a great skill. All right, so we're going to move on to the rules for multiplying and dividing positive and negative numbers. So unlike addition and subtraction where there's several rules, with multiplication and division, there's only 2 rules. The rules are same signs, you get positive, different signs, negative. That's it. So if you have 2 positive numbers, you get a positive answer. Even if you have 2 negative numbers, they have the same sign as each other, so you get a positive answer. So 2 negatives multiplied gives you a positive. But then if your 2 numbers have different signs, your answer is negative. It doesn't matter which is the bigger number. What is the sign of the bigger number? That has nothing to do with multiplication and division. All right, so if you have 2 numbers and those 2 numbers are being multiplied or divided and they have the same sign, the answer is positive. If those 2 numbers have different signs, the answer is negative. That's it. That's what you need to know. Or if you sometimes you have more than one number being more than 2 numbers being multiplied. So basically, if the amount of negative numbers is odd, so if you have 1 negative number or 3 negative numbers or 5 negative numbers, the answer will always be negative. When you are multiplying an even set of negative numbers, the answer will be positive because for every 2 negatives, you get 1 positive. So if you have 2 negatives multiplied, you get a positive. If you have 4 negatives multiplied, you get a positive. If you have 6 negatives being multiplied, you get a positive, so on and so forth. Okay. All right, so let's try these problems. Now, I want you to pause the video, try these, and then come back and see how you did. All right, number 5, they have the same sign. We get 20. Number 6, they have different signs of each other, so we get negative. Number 7, same signs. Oh, I didn't realize 5 and 7 were the same problem. Whoops. Number 8, they have the same sign as each other. And number 9, they have different signs. All right, now look at number 10. We have 2 negative numbers, so our final answer is positive 60. Here we have 1, 2, 3 negative numbers, which is odd. So this one we have negative 60. And number 12, I threw in another number, it's just a -1. So we have 2 negative numbers. That's an even number. So our final answer is positive 60. All right, because -4 times 5 is -20. 3 times -1 is -3. And then finally, a negative times a negative is a positive. How'd you guys do? I hope you did well. All right, and then you guys have to multiply and divide mixed numbers and simple fractions. So if you don't have a sign between a number and a parentheses mark, that means multiplication. If you had a plus sign right here, it would be addition or a subtraction. But since there's no sign between our first term and the parentheses, that means we're multiplying. Same thing with 14. That's a multiplication problem. Okay, so be careful thinking that you're supposed to add or subtract when you're supposed to multiply. All right, so the only way, so let's start with 15 actually. So if you have simple fractions, meaning that they're not mixed number, all you do is multiply straight across. You do not need common denominators. Just the numerator times the numerator, denominator times the denominator. The only thing we have to think about is if our answer is positive or negative. Well, since they have different signs, we get a negative number, then we multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 2 is 6. And that's it. Guess what? We're done. So easy, right? All right, but 13 and 14, they're both, I put down the same digits, but the signs are going to be different. Our answers are going to be different signs. But you do have to make these in proper fractions before you're allowed to multiply. You cannot multiply them without making them in proper fractions. So we're going to go around the world. We're going to say 8 times 2 is 16, and 16 plus 5 is 21 over 8 times negative, do it again, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13, so 13/5. All right, we just multiply straight across. So first of all, is our answer positive or negative? Well, they have different signs, so our answer is going to be negative. And then we multiply straight across. So 21 times 15, 13 is 273 over 40. And then if I was trying to say, okay, how many times will 40 go into 270? Well, 40 will go into 270 about what? 7? No, 7's too much. So it's going to be 6. So that's going to be 240. So subtract, and I get a remainder of 33. So for 6 whole times with a remainder of 33 over 40. Okay. Let me just make sure my answer is right. Yeah, it's right. So that's my final answer. Ooh. Final answer right there. All right, so since my digits are the same, I'm going to get the same numbers. I'm going to get negative 21/8 times negative 13 over 5. And then what's a negative times a negative? It's a positive. So my answer is positive 6 and 33 over 40. All right, how'd you guys do? All right, and then this week you're also looking at some division problems. So I just wanted to point these out to you. The question is, are these fractions equivalent? So look at letter A. We have negative 1/3 combined with 1 over negative 3. Well, even though the negative is on the bottom, this is still a negative fraction. This is still a negative fraction. So are these equivalent? Yes, they are. If I divide 1 by 3, I get 0.33333. So this is equivalent to 0.3 repeating. And so is this. This one is also equivalent to 0.3 repeating. I could divide 1 by 3 in my calculator, and I'm going to get 0.3333333. All right, look at letter B. This is equivalent to negative 0.75, and so is this one. So are these equivalent? Yes, they are. In other words, it doesn't matter where that negative sign is. It can be in the numerator or the denominator or in front of the fraction. All 3 of those places are fine. It makes the whole fraction negative. However, look at letter C. Our first number is a negative fraction, but then look at the second one. A fraction is the same as a division problem. So basically that's saying -2 divided by -7. So a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So even though the first one's equal to -2/7, the second one is actually equal to +2/7. So are these equal? No, they are not. So what's the takeaway? The takeaway is you can put your negative sign in any of these three places. They're all fine. And then the other takeaway is if you have two negative numbers being divided, your answer is positive. Okay. All right, you guys. So I hope that helps a little bit. So do all your work this week. You have work to do every day. Make sure you read your lessons thoroughly. Make sure you watch all the videos. Make sure you write down all practice problems. Make sure you interact with the curriculum as much as possible. If you have questions, let me know and I will be happy to help you. Attend the Zoom meetings and you guys will be good to go. All right, you guys, thanks for watching and I hope everyone has a great week and I will see you at our Zoom on Friday. Is it on Friday? It is Friday at 11. All right, guys.